Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous good-looking friends. It looks like these two Muppets are taking Jim Henson's quote to heart. If you can't beat them, join them. Seems to be the new strategic direction of Meghan and Harry. We all know that the Harkles have a sick obsession with controlling what the media says about them. Everything that they have tried seems to have failed on them. Nothing that they do is improving their brand. So I think in this last attempt, this is kind of what I see happening. Prince Harry is trying desperately to take down Rupert Murdoch, but at the same time, it looks like he is, or I should say Archewell is, subsidizing failing local newsrooms across America. And according to this article from The Telegraph, Archewell is now part of this coalition called Press Forward, which is designed on their website, it states, to strengthen communities and democracy. Now, I am so sick of hearing community democracy associated with these two grifters because we all know that they want to create division and they want to control and censor people. And I agree with what this article has to say, and I'm going to show you why in a second. But first, let's recap what this article had said back in September. Harry's move to swoop in and save journalism seems like a if you can't beat 'em, buy 'em approach. He's hardly shown any interest in American democracy before. I've got so much I want to say about the First Amendment as I sort of understand it, but it's bonkers. I don't want to start going down the First Amendment route because that's a huge subject and one which I don't understand because I've only been here a short time. Now, remember, he said that on the Dax Shepard podcast in 2021, right after that Oprah interview. But going down Harry's oft-maligned First Amendment route is exactly what his and Meghan Markle's Archewell Foundation plans to do, along with the scions of some of America's richest families. Markle herself isn't Harry's only accomplice in his efforts to transform the information that Americans consume masquerading as news. Billionaires like Pierre Omidyar, the eBay founder, along with the heirs to the Ford family fortune, have also pledged money to Press Forward. It's not the first charitable drive Omidyar has involved himself in. Through his non-for-profit, Luminate, he has donated over $1 million to the Orwellian-sounding Global Disinformation Index. Okay, I'm going to pause right here and show you a couple things. Now, this video piggybacks off of the video that I did yesterday. So if you haven't watched it, please pause the video here, go and watch it so you can understand a little bit more about this censorship industrial complex at a very high level and what has been happening here in the United States with lawsuits being issued on violation of First Amendment rights as a result of some of these organizations trying to censor and suppress First Amendment rights of the American people. If you want further in-depth explanation, I've set up a playlist that goes through what has been happening in Congress with these hearings, as well as showing you how entrenched Meghan and Harry are within this censorship industrial complex. Which, going back to this article, in which they state that Peter Omidyar had given $1 million to the Global Disinformation Index, who happens to be a part of the censorship industrial complex. But to add another layer to that, in remembering that Archewell, public charity, is partnered with Omidyar Network in this next-gen Nazi 2.0 youth movement called the RT Youth Power Fund. Anyhow, getting back to this article, the GDI, or the Global Disinformation Index, that's part of the censorship industrial complex, is far from nonpartisan and appears to dedicate itself more to shutting down conservative news sites than actually combating disinformation. GDI's blacklist, which includes the New York Post and the Daily Wire amongst its disinformation peddlers, have been used to force advertisers to cut off conservative outlets, throttling their finances and limiting what Americans can read. The State Department-funded National Endowment for Democracy grouped ties with GDI after an investigation into their blacklist, citing a desire to avoid involvement in domestic politics. What do the donors of Press Forward, aka Prince Harry and Archewell Public Charity, think about the Supreme Court, one of the last lines of defense for journalists? Not much good. The same conservative justices who are likeliest to side with Americans against the Biden administration's push to censor what information they see on social media, as seen with the recent Missouri versus Biden ruling, are the same ones that are subject to increasingly desperate attacks from outlets backed by Harry's new friends, and most likely including Harry. So where I'm going with this video is to now bring you to talking about this online article that was published by BYLINE Times. It does appear that Meghan and Harry are behind this now. And the reason why I say so is that we've seen here in the United States how they have been trying to use propaganda and control the media here, as well as investing in these various local groups to control local media. Well, this is no different across the pond, in which BYLINE Times also is one of those grassroots organizations. And we're going to get into why I believe that Meghan and Harry are behind this latest piece of damaging propaganda in order to hurt the monarchy. But before we do that, let's talk about what is being claimed in this article. So apparently this article is being used to get people to not only buy the print copy in London, but also to buy it online. But thankfully, they've summarized it in bullet points in which you look at the bullets and you say a lot of this stuff is not true or just twisting narratives. Just from reading the summary and bullet points, it's a definite hit piece against the family as well as Dan Wooten. Now, we all know that Meghan and Harry are very spiteful and vengeful people, which would make sense as to why this is so pro-Sussex, especially if there are funds coming from the Sussex camp, which we'll get into in a second. But let's take a look at some of these. The first one, for instance, Prince Harry and Meghan were forced out of the Sandringham agreement to continue in public service from Canada when his father pulled the plug on funding. So what are they saying? They're essentially saying that Meghan and Harry were forced into commercializing and making money this way. I mean, that can't be verified unless it came from Prince Harry and Meghan, who most likely felt that they were forced out or lied about it, which I believe that it is the latter. They weren't forced out. They just didn't like the terms that were presented to them because they weren't given the half-in, half-out solution that they wanted. So these two bitches continue to keep crying about it. And the way that they're doing that is, again, slamming their family. Or how about this one? When the aide's name was not removed from the legal letters, the Sussexes were cut adrift financially and left unable to protect themselves despite having a security threat level equal to the monarch. Oh, please. The royal household had thought the threat of exposure would force Harry and Meghan to return to the UK, where their profile could be controlled, preventing them from eclipsing the future king. Now, who do you think that came from? This is the same narrative that Meghan and Harry keep echoing. Of course, this came from him. And then here we have the last bullet point, but it drove a wedge through the royal family and set in train events leading to Prince Harry's book Spare, a string of high-profile commercial media deals and ongoing bad blood in the British monarchy. Well, whose fault is that? Harry and Meghan's. And these two adult babies can't get over the fact that the royal family has not reacted to anything. So what we're seeing here is the continuing tantrum that Harry is having in the public space in order to get them to react, to a point probably where he's going to do something that's going to be so damaging to the monarchy, forcing them to have to take action in some way. This is just the start of it. Now, folks, when we look at this outlet that has published this, you have to understand Harry's connections to the outlet, in which we all know that Harry and Meghan are behind this, once again trying to trash the monarchy. So folks, BYLINE Times is associated with Graham Johnson. Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, let me give you a refresher. For one, he is a freelance writer for BYLINE Times, but also runs a division that is a subsection of this BYLINE Investigates media conglomerate called BYLINE Investigates, in which the division has been focused on essentially trying to take down the Rupert Murdoch empire with a core focus on these lawsuits with the Mirror, the Mail, also other journalists like Piers Morgan, but very supportive of Prince Harry and Meghan. Now, going back to Graham Johnson, who is a part of BYLINE Investigates, used to be one of those investigative reporters that practiced hacking and getting stories working for the Rupert Murdoch empire. Now, he was caught up in the whole phone hacking scandal as revealed in the Levinson inquiry. So this guy ended up being found guilty and ended up having to do some time. But then I think through good behavior and a plea bargain and flipping, he aligned himself as a so-called reform journalist working with Hacked Off. Now, this organization is headed up by Hugh Grant, who is also after the whole Rupert Murdoch enterprise and in what appears to be one big money grab that's being spearheaded by various lawyers, including David Sherborne. And just a quick reminder, Harry hired David Sherborne and joined multiple other claimants against the newspaper groups. And we witnessed him give this ridiculous deposition and testimony. And now we're all waiting to see if the judge will move forward in giving this case a trial. Now, bring in Graham Johnson. He's been the guy working behind the scenes to help assemble whatever evidence that was being put forward in these court cases, which included Prince Harry and Doreen Lawrence. Now, here is where it gets murky. According to Gavin Burrows, he's claiming that the 21-page confession that was submitted to the court had been forged, and he never made those claims that were put in the documents. Now, the part that I don't understand is why is the court system entertaining this case when it has been shown that the evidence that has been submitted was not authentic and should not be trusted, as well as the testimony not only by Scobie, but by Harry himself that was so ridiculous. This whole thing seems to be so corrupt, and I hope that the judge has some sense in not moving this case to trial. And I think that the people who submitted fake evidence or forged evidence should be prosecuted. In the United States, that's a criminal offense. I would assume that in the UK, they equally have similar laws. So where do we stand with all of this? Well, Christine Hart, who has also been spoken about in this case and calling fraud, has just posted this on Twitter. So it appears that there's a decision coming soon in which Judge Nicklin will make the decision on whether or not this case will move forward to trial. So now it brings me back to this article in which we know that Graham Johnson is linked to this organization and questioning the timing of it being published, because let's review some of the bullets that were included that seem quite suspicious in being featured, as we now know that this case is coming to some kind of decision on whether or not it will or will not move forward. We have this one. They told how the payments had provoked panic at the Sun and claimed senior executives quietly brushed the matter under the carpet. That seems kind of relevant. Or it follows news that a partner of a key aide to Prince William received £4,000 from the Sun, allegedly for stories about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex when Wooten was executive director. We all know that Meghan and Harry have a big axe to grind against Dan Wooten, so not shocking that there has been a targeted effort against Dan Wooten, not only to get him removed off of YouTube and GB News, but also to slander and tarnish his name till the end of his life. And this is the vindictiveness of Meghan and Harry. Prince Harry sent formal letters before action detailing the claims about Wooten and the palace to News UK. What's that all about? Or how about this one? The payments came to light in anonymous whistleblower emails, notice the word anonymous, claiming to be from admin workers within the Murdoch newspaper publishing empire. Well, folks, if this case does move forward and somehow these pieces from this particular article seem to be raised and used, can we trust that there is authentic receipts showing that they were payments? I don't think so, especially since it's been outed that they forged Gavin Burrows' signature. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I just want to point this out to you because what I'm getting the feeling of, and we've seen this pattern with Meghan and Harry, they tend to posture themselves right before something is supposed to happen in order to influence. So my guess is that they made a big stink about this in order for this to go viral, in which it did, and notice who was promoting it and raising money for it. Yes, folks, the Sussex Squad. So all roads do connect back to Meghan and Harry. So when you look at all these different data points and you take a look at the full picture itself, noticing their patterns and their behaviors, also, I have seen evidence of how money has been circulating around the Archwell Foundation and the Sussex Squad to some of these organizations. Now, I'm not saying that there's laundering involved. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. But again, this is why the IRS needs to investigate, especially the associations that Meghan and Harry are making along the lines of involving themselves with undermining the U.S. Constitution. And in quite a few videos I've done, I pointed out that there is something not right with their tax return, and it appears that there is some tax evasion going on. Like, where was the money for Melba in Harlem? Or where was the money for World Central Kitchen for that roof in Texas, just to name a few? Come on, IRS, do your job. By now, it should be evidently clear the Sussex agenda has nothing to do with kindness and compassion and wanting to see a safer online world. It's really about controlling the media and getting back at all those that had called them out for their lies as well as their manipulation. Their obsession in getting revenge or clapping back is borderline mental institution insanity, in my opinion. Their quest to control the media has many different prongs to it. We've seen them saturate the media and invading the public space with their garbage. They're working on the back end, pushing regulation and influencing, or at least trying to influence U.S. policies as well as other policies around the world. They've been funding nonprofit programs and specifically targeting minorities and vulnerable, underserved youth, thinking that their money is, enough for them to tell them what to do and what to think. And this is all part of me calling them out as groomers. They have been, and we know this, stir up division and discourse with the UK media, trying to take journalists down. We've seen that happen to several journalists so far. We have Jeremy Clarkson. We saw what happened to him. We have Dan Wooten, Piers Morgan. I mean, there's quite a few. Then we have, let's not forget, the paid people or bots to push out harmful content as well as false narratives in order to incite and gaslight people online just to make certain points, whether it be, oh, Meghan is the most beautiful person on the earth, or this is why we need for reform. I mean, literally causing trouble in order to position the narrative that they want. Also, let's not forget the frivolous lawsuits to take down Rupert Murdoch empire, assuming that they want to take over that. Hence the reason why I believe that they're on this path to build their own media empire with these grassroots organizations they're currently funding in their quest for self-promotion. Let's not forget URL Media is getting money from Archwell Foundation, which is not a charity. This URL Media most likely is where they're getting these so-called supporters to champion their cause. Anyhow, this is what I wanted to bring up today to show you that it's not just Harry being a part of the Aspen Institute. He is so deeply rooted in various places in order to control the media. Like, I know that we have a lot of serious things going on right now in the world, but we have to protect our homeland first, and we have a UK prince on US soil trying to undermine the foundation of our country, which is the Constitution. That should be defended at all costs, no matter how frivolous other people may think this is. Anyhow, I just wanted to share my 2 cents on this one. This is purely opinion, but what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. And as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
It was such a fraud.